Hello and welcome to episode 58 of the AMT podcast. Now, we're going to do something slightly different today. We do have a guest. As you guys know, I do preview big boxing matchups, and I'll be doing that again this weekend on Substack. So if you want to check that out, make sure you subscribe. I'll leave the link in the description below. But as for today's guest, he's someone who's pretty connected in football and boxing circles. He goes by Team News and Ticks on social media, and he's got a sizable following. I'm plugging him, but I'm the one that needs help. But without further ado, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thanks for the intro. I started to believe in myself a bit there.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. But yeah, so, like we've been speaking about, the fight. I'm not sure if you saw my preview the first time round. I did it on YouTube. And, the consensus was that a good big fighter beats a good small fighter. And in my opinion, that's quite a lazy argument because the height discrepancy is just massive in the heavyweight division. So is the weights. I didn't pay too much attention to that, and I had Usyk as the clear favorite. This time, he's the clear favorite. So what's your thoughts going into this rematch on Saturday?
Yeah, look, I will start this off by saying I've always been an Usyk fan. I remember I caught one fight of his at cruiserweight. So I'm not really into amateur boxing, so I didn't know too much about his Olympic pedigree and whatnot. But I caught one fight of him at cruiserweight, and I remember saying to my friends, and this is way before he was undisputed at cruiser. And I said to my friends, he'll unify at both cruiser and heavy. And they was all going, no, it's crazy, he's too small, blah, blah, blah. And I just looked at the path at the time. I think Fury might have been out at the time, to be fair. And I was like, well, he beats AJ and Wilder was the other champion. And I was like, and he beat Wilder 12-0. So I've kind of had that backing for him for so long that, everyone wants their predictions to be right, don't they? So I'm an Usyk fan, so I will caveat it with that. But I just always thought that he'd be too clever for Fury and his work rate would be too much. I did worry about the distance, but Fury, given his height, isn't someone that keeps you long and just pops you off on the jab. Maybe old school Fury was pre-drugs ban, adding all the weight, losing the weight again and coming back. But the sort of modern Fury doesn't keep you long. So even though people kept going on about the height and range, that's not really Fury's game. It's more footwork. And he moves incredibly well for someone who's as tall as he is. But he doesn't move with Usyk.
Yeah, I think the problem with Usyk is that he's just, the pace he fights at is just so relentless. So you can't just let your hands go. You're just going to knock yourself out. So I think Tony Bellew, to some extent, shown the blueprint as to how to, potentially beat Usyk. I know he didn't get the job done, but, you could see he was just absolutely knackered, as they got to the latter part of that fight. And, it's kind of like Fury, in my opinion, it was the showboating, it was the messing around, which really tipped the tide in Usyk's favor because he was controlling distance. He was landing to the head and body at will. I think it was in round 6. But he took his foot off the gas. And when you do that against someone who's just a live wire, who's just walking you down, and who's just coming for you and setting up angles, it's just so hard, to fend off. And, Fury's not exactly a concussive puncher. He hasn't got that pop to back you up. But, I did see good things in that fight from Tyson Fury. So in my opinion, if he fights the way he did in the first half of the fight this time round, it's going to be a lot closer. So I find this rematch so much harder to predict than the first time round. But I understand that you do have some tidbits of inside information which can potentially sway me. So you got to sell it to me.
Yeah, well, first of all, you just said he's not exactly a concussive puncher. And I would agree with you from a fan's point of view of viewing and watching. But I know a lot of people that have sparred with him, and they all say when he holds his feet, he punches as hard, if not harder, than anyone else they've been in the ring with. But because, as we said earlier, he's more of a movement guy, he doesn't really hold his feet. But when he came back and obviously he was like dropping Wilder left, right and centre, obviously one punch KO, Dillian White. Mm-hmm. The people that, as I said, I know that sparred with him were like, I told you, like the guy's 20 odd stone and been boxing his whole life. Anyone that weight can crack. But they all tell me, and as I said, as a fan, someone that watches, it doesn't seem to ring true. But I know people that regularly sparred him and AJ, and they say a Tyson that holds his feet punches harder than AJ, which again, from a viewing point of view, we wouldn't believe. But I've been told it by so many people that have, shared a ring with them both, that you kind of have to believe them, because I've never been on the end of a shot from either of them, and neither do I want to. But the people that have tell me that Fury punches harder. So the problem is you can't set your feet against Usyk, as has been shown multiple times through everyone that he's ever fought. But I just thought I'd pick you up on that, because it does always surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, when I say concussive, what I mean is that it's not that he doesn't have power, it's that he chooses not to sit down on his punches. So like you said, he moves around a lot. He likes to touch you, whereas Wilder just completely loads up. He telegraphs his punches pretty much. Fury wanted to do that. He probably could, but it just goes against his style of fighting. And he doesn't like staying in the pocket too long. He likes to pop you and then move, and then once he sees you're hurt, he'll finish you off. So I think with Dillian Whyte, I think there was a bit of a weird situation where he was kind of, I don't know if he was looking at the ref. He was just, he's caught dumbstruck, and then he hit him with that uppercut. But I'm definitely not discounting Fury's power. But, other than that border shot we saw Daniel Dubois land on Usyk, we've never really seen Usyk in trouble, and he's taken big punches from Joshua. He's taken big hits from the biggest guys at cruiserweight in the Super 6. I think it was Marius Bradis who hit him flush, and he didn't move, he didn't budge, he just keeps coming forward. So he's such a complete fighter. But I think, in my opinion, if Fury does what you say he's supposedly going to do, what he actually is going to do, and that's put on weight, walk him down and bully him, how much of a shot do you think Fury has of stopping Usyk inside the first half of the fight?
Well, it's weird. I mean, my thing with Usyk is you can never catch him twice. So he gets, not hurt, but he'll get hit, and most boxers don't get taken out with one shot. It's very rare, one punch KOs. Mm-hmm. And as I said, what Usyk's very good at is not being caught twice. So something will land on him to set the next shot up, but he always managed to evade it, circle out, hold whatever it needs to be. And I think that's the problem. In boxing, the theory is, and everyone would have heard this anyway, that Usyk's weak to the body. I know for a fact Dubois' camp knew that Usyk was better than him at the time, and they trained the whole camp to just land that one shot, because they're like, we've got power on our side. Their whole camp was just about landing that one shot, and it would be to the body, and he landed it. Whether you think I personally think it was low, but there's debate about that.
Yeah, I disagree. I at the end of the day, it was given low. I didn't think it was low. It was on the belt, but technically, if it's below the belly button, it counts as low. But in my opinion, that's not your groin area, which is what he was holding. So that's where it kind of gets, it divides people.
This is what I was going to go into. Whether you think it was low or not, and as I said, I agree it was borderline. I'm not angry with either. I think it was low. Other people think it wasn't, and I kind of agree with both. But his reaction wasn't the shot of someone that had been hit in the bollocks. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
That's all right.
So, it shows that, there is that slight vulnerability to the body. So I think, going back to your question, I think Tyson, if he does try walking down, hold his feet a bit more, use that power, Tyson, because of tying people up, and he's very good in close, which is weird because we don't really see it. Uh-huh. And again, this is people that work with him. They say he ties you up really well. He's he leans on you. He's a heavy man. Mm. I think that takes up so much energy. So I think Tyson's got. I think the first round or two will be a feeling out process, as we tend to see.
Yeah.
And then I think Tyson's got maybe 4 rounds of trying to maul him, trying to lean on him, sit on him, take his legs away, even if it's not through punches, just through leaning on him and putting the weight on. Mm-hmm. And I think in that 4 rounds, that's where Tyson can win it for me. And I don't mean, I think he can stop him in them 4 rounds, but even if he doesn't, he's got to try and put as much damages into him. So then the second half of the fight, when he's inevitably going to be absolutely knackered, mm-hmm. Usyk also is, because of the damage he's put on him. It's weird because I see it, as I said earlier, I see it as sort of like a Fury first half or Usyk second half.
Yeah. Not so different from the first fight, but from a different sense where, Fury was controlling the range. Like I said, up to round 6, he was landing to the head and body when he let his hands go. But we've never seen anyone so far in the heavyweight division, from whether it be Anthony Joshua or Daniel Dubois or even Fury in the first fight, put their weight on him. And that's something where I think Anthony Joshua got it completely wrong. Robert McCracken tried to turn him into a technician Whereas Joshua's advantage is, he's a devastating combination puncher. He didn't throw any combos, and he's much bigger. And he tried to lean himself out. He tried to go toe to toe with him, and you just can't do that against someone who's just who's arguably the most skillful cruiserweight / heavyweight in history. But from what you know, and I know you have a few potential insiders in Fury's camp or whatnot. What have you heard with regards to his tactics for this fight?
Yeah,
how likely are we to see what we've spoken about him putting on weight and trying to bully him in the first half? How likely is that? What have you heard?
Yeah, that's literally what I'm hearing he's going to do. The only thing that makes me slightly consider that is, as I said, that's what I'm hearing, but that story is sort of going around in the sort of boxing press at the moment. Mm-hmm. So you never know. I don't like when stories come out, because I'm like, that means the other side knows, and is that it's just been leaked, which can happen. Yeah. Which is essentially why I exist. Or is it that, they're trying to get the camp to think one thing? I can't see a way Fury wins this if he comes in light. Mm-hmm. I just think Usyk downloaded too much data on him now, and Usyk tends to get better in rematches as well. So that's not something I can see Fury doing. So I do expect him to come in heavy and try and maul, try and get on top of him. Bit of wrestling. Bit of making it ugly, because as we said, Usyk wins a clean boxing match. I also wouldn't be surprised to see him go southpaw for sections of it, just because Usyk loves to spin out on his right foot.
Yeah.
Which obviously takes you away from an orthodox fighter, but with a southpaw it would lead him to walking into the strong hand. So that's not, to be fair, that's in my personal opinion, not anything I've heard from the camp. But yeah, from the camp it appears heavy, like coming, I don't know how heavy, but heavier than the first fight, and try and enforce that size difference on him.
Yeah, so when it comes to inside information, you made a really good point. If we know, then Usyk's camp knows. So do you not feel that Usyk's camp would have made that adjustment? And if they have, what adjustment can Usyk make for a Fury that's going to come in heavier and that's going to be on the front foot?
Well, I mean, the news has only started to sort of come out about Fury in maybe not even the last week or so, but say week. So it would have been too late to make adjustments. They'd have been on their final spars by the time that come out. But I think they would have expected it anyway. And just on the Usyk's fitness, getting out of the way, getting positions, like you can nick a ref when someone is holding you and whatnot, like not trying to fight out of the clinch, because it's really draining. Like, just stand in the pocket, holding, not particularly throwing punches if you can get away with it, hiding your head, as I said, especially being a southpaw, getting your head outside of Fury's left arm. So just stuff like that. But I mean, this is stuff that Usyk's been the smaller man, well, not his whole career, but a lot of it. So it wouldn't be something, I mean, look, of course he would have worked on it for the fight, but it wouldn't be something new to him. It's not like he would have had to, learn new skills. Of course, against someone that big, it would, he's never had to deal with someone doing it at that size before. But then you can't really emulate that. I don't know who Usyk had in as sparring partners, but he tends to not have main sparring partners. So he does, his general sparring is 16 4-minute rounds with 4 different partners. So it's all about the fitness, and sometimes you're going to be knackered. So when you're knackered, even the smaller man feels like the bigger man, because, imagine he's done 12 4 minutes, and then a fresh guy comes in, even if they're only, an inch or so taller than him and the same weight or a stone heavier, they'll feel like, a man mountain, because he's already done 12 4 minutes. He's already had a full fight, more than a full fight. So Usyk will be prepared for it. I don't think he'll have to change too much, but he wouldn't have been able to train specifically for Fury doing it, because, there's not even many bad impressions of Fury. But on the flip side, Fury, I know, has had the same problem in his first fight. Like, you tend to get sparring partners in that kind of emulate what your opponent's going to do, and there's no such thing as a bad impression of Usyk. I know he had Oppenheimer in for a bit. He got rid of him after about a day. But again, that's just a southpaw cruiserweight. He's not as skilled as Usyk. He probably punches harder than Usyk in terms of, or he's more of a devastating puncher, but he's not a slick southpaw mover. He's I'll come and find you. So both will have the same problem in terms of sparring partners. I know Fury's been using Kevin Lorena a lot, who again, anyone that knows boxing will not have him anywhere near as a Usyk clone. Moses has been in camp with Fury. Moses Atum has been in camp with Fury. I don't know how much they would have done heavy sparring though, because Moses has obviously got his own quite big fight on the card.
So have you heard anything with regards to, Fury's preparation? I know obviously I don't want to, let's say it's a given that he's coming in heavier. Have you heard any more information with regards to his preparation and how sharp he's looking in camp?
Yeah, they're saying he looks really sharp. It's been a really good camp. They're leaning on that he's been able to spar properly because the first fight, because of the cut that was opened up in sparring.
Right, yeah.
And they had the date set, and there was a big financial penalty from Turkey if it didn't go ahead on that day. They're saying that not he wasn't prepared, but he wasn't optimally prepared. He would have preferred to do more sparring or tougher rounds or a longer stint of sparring. Whereas this time, what they're saying is it's been clean. But to be honest, they wouldn't, if it rolled his ankle. They probably wouldn't tell me that, because obviously the risk of it getting out.
Yeah. When it comes to, look, before the fight, I already had pretty much my mind made up on what's going to happen. But the thing is, when it comes to inside information, it's like I don't let it affect what I think is going to happen in the fight. So, for example, the last fight I can think of where something happened like this was when Gervonta Davis fought Ryan Garcia. And I think that news came out in Garcia's camp that he was hurt to the body badly by a rib shot. I think it was some Mongolian fighter, and he had to train the rest of the camp with a body kind of suit on. So Gervonta was targeting the body. But whether that was true or not, I was already backing Gervonta Davis. So, with regards to this fight, even if Fury is bigger, even if he is looking sharp, and even if it was down to the cut in the last fight, I just feel like, he's got a lot of mileage on the clock, and he has been dropped a lot. He's been hit by hard shots by Deontay Wilder. I think he got dropped 5 or 6 times. You'd have to correct me if I'm wrong, in those 3 fights. And Usyk just has showed no sign of slowing down whatsoever. So I don't know. For me, it's if he fights like he did in the first half, this time round, like you said, it's a fight at 2 halves. It could go down to Fury. If it goes into deep waters, it is going to go down to Usyk. But the long and short of it is, if you gun to your head, who's going to win this fight?
Yeah, so my money, despite all I've said, my money is on Usyk. I just wouldn't be at all surprised if Fury wins in 6.
Yeah.
Or so. But my money is on Usyk, and sort of always has been.
So you're with me in that regard. But you've already made up your mind before, but you don't feel like any of the information you've heard from sparring partners or insiders with regards to him being bigger, him looking sharp and not being cut, you don't think that's enough to tip the scales in Fury's favor?
No, I don't think so. And also, like, he's lost that air of invincibility about him. Like, I know it's fight week now, so we're going to hear all the interviews. I heard one yesterday where he said, I'm going to retire Usyk. But deep down now, he knows he can be beat. Before, he's been down, he's got up. His powers of recovery are incredible. I mean, personally, the knockdown in the first fight should have been counted a lot earlier, and arguably he would have been stopped. But then to come out for the 10th the way he did was insane, because he was all over the place. So he's always had that belief in himself that, nothing can hurt him, but nothing can put him down. Nothing can beat him. Like, I think he famously used the Romeo and Juliet line of "no man has come from their mother can beat me."
Yeah.
And he truly believed that. But now he doesn't. And I think that despite all the changes he's making, which I think are all the right changes, I think if he has lost that fear of, I can't be beat, now he'll be worried about taking shots. He's like, someone can put me on the end of something and hurt me. I think he probably would have gone into the Usyk fight the first time thinking, I know he kept saying he's a small middleweight, blah, blah, blah. And obviously he didn't believe that. He knew how skilled Usyk was, but I don't think he would have believed he could be hurt. And now he knows he can, badly. And I think that's the biggest factor is now Fury's tasted defeat. And I think it's, you see him do interviews now and it's like, if I lose, whereas before that was never really a thing. And I think the psychological is actually more important than the psychological changes are more important than the physical or the tactical changes that he's going to make.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I mean, just the way he's been talking has been different. But, one thing that no one can say about Fury is that, let me just go back a little bit. I think there's a difference between chin and heart. So I think Fury's heart is he's probably got one of the biggest. Like, he can pick himself up with the canvas. He was pretty much out cold in that Wilder fight, and he picked himself up. And then in the rematch, he picked himself up twice. I think in one round. So he always gets off the canvas. When his back is against the wall, he does come back out swinging. And even against Usyk, who you said he was hurt. I don't think Usyk is a big puncher. I don't think he's like Wilder. But what he does do is he opens up angles and he hits you frequently, clean. So it's just an accumulation of damage, which lands on him. But where do you think Fury goes from here if he does lose this fight or if he wins this fight? What options are left out there for Tyson?
I mean, look, the AJ match is always going to be the money spinner. Like, people can say it should have happened 5 years ago, and they're right. And, we're not as interested in it anymore. That sells out any venue on earth and does record UK pay-per-view buys. So there's always that. I think if he loses, that's the definite route. I can't see anything else but that. I think if he wins is interesting because it makes that AJ fight that much bigger. There's a title on the line. It does also make people think it's more one-sided. Whereas if he loses, I think he'll still go in as favourite against AJ, but the odds will be tighter than they are if Fury goes in having defeated Usyk and walking in with 3 of the 4 belts. So if he loses, I think the AJ fight definitely happens. If he wins, it depends how much interest Saudi have in putting in the rubber match, putting on the third.
I was going to say,
and how much interest Usyk has in taking it. So I think my likely would be that if he wins, a third happens, and if he loses, he fights AJ. They both make a whole ton of money, and they either swim off into the sunset together, or there's a 2 or 3 of them, and them just spinning money again and again, depending on how the fight plays out.
I think with Joshua, from what I've heard, he's not taking the Daniel Dubois rematch straight away. So if Fury loses, if Fury loses, do you think that fight is going to happen next?
Yeah, I think a summer fight, depending on how this goes, but I think a summer fight would give Fury enough time to recover. AJ's not starting camp till the new year. Like, he's never out of training, but he's basically not training. Like, he's just ticking over at the moment, keeping fit, but he's not properly training. He's due to go back to training in the new year. So, and obviously the result of this will dictate what his training camp consists of. But I think he's not taking the Daniel rematch immediately. Obviously, Daniel's fighting Parker in February. And that is another option. So I think the 2 options for AJ are winner of Daniel against Parker or Fury if he loses. I think they're the 2 routes that I can, see AJ going.
Do you not feel like the shine has been taken off the Fury Joshua fight? Do you not feel as if this is so typical of British boxing, whereas the big grudge matches either never happen or they happen when no one cares, like Kell Brook and Amir Khan, or if you go further back when Ricky Hatton never ended up fighting, was it Junior Witter, the guy from Yorkshire?
Junior Witter. No, there's loads. Kawasaki Froch.
Yeah. Kawasaki Froch, right. I was going to say he retired, so we never saw that. I'm trying to think what else. But it just happens so often. Saudi are now stepping in, to rescue boxing almost somewhat. How good do you think Turkey has been and Riyadh Season 4 boxing, and where do you see the future of boxing going?
So to start off with, has the shine been taken off it? Yes, but it would still do record numbers for British boxing. As I said, it's not what it would have been 5 years ago, how many years, but it would still break all records. The same way Floyd and Manny was probably 5 years too late, and it's still the highest grossing fight ever, I believe.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yes, it's not what it was, but, when you get fight week and you get the media, the PR machine running, that, as I said, I believe it sells out any venue on earth. In terms of Riyadh season, Turkey, they've done incredible things. Like, now we're seeing cards that just so the February card is probably the best example we can use.
That's
Every
crazy.
fight is a headliner somewhere, and a sellout headliner, not just put them on in a York Hall. Nothing against York Hall, but say the lowest probably viewership fight on that card as a global boxing fan, I'm not talking UK, is probably Smith-Buatsi, which would sell out the O2.
That's just insane, isn't it?
Yeah, like you've got Zhang Kabayel opening the show. And again, you put Zhang in China.
That's a headline fight.
Exactly. And even in the UK, he would do decent numbers for two non-domestic fighters. So, like, stuff like that just wouldn't have been fathomable without Turkey or Riyadh season and whatnot. The money they're throwing it, I mean, I've heard some of the purses that fighters are getting, and they're literal insanity. Like, but that's what it comes when, like, people can think whatever they want of promoters. I know some people like Eddie Hearn, some people don't. The same with Frank Warren, but they're businessmen. They're not. They need to, turn a profit, and they can, they might lose on show A to gain on show B, or they might be in losing money on a fighter until he gets that big fight, and that's when they make their money back. That's quite common in promotion. We're Turkey and Saudi, because they're not trying to turn a profit. They're losing ridiculous amounts, but they don't care. So him having that ability to not care has changed the game completely, because this just completely wouldn't have been possible with anyone trying to turn a profit. It's not like, I know that with the Undisputed, they're basically paying whatever anyone wants, which is why it's happening. Like the Turbio Bivol people have been talking about for years, and obviously it's happening again within 6 months. But I know his whole thing, he essentially wants to make boxing like UFC, and that it's controlled and the best fight the best. So the Undisputed, brings it who are the best. And I think at some point, and this is just me speculating, he's going to try and sort of get rid of the governing bodies, not get rid of them, but make them realize that this Undisputed belt that he's created is the one true belt. He's obviously brought the Ring magazine, which again is sort of seen as you are the best if you hold the Ring belt. There's been a bit of politics in it the last few years because Golden Boy owned it, but now he's brought it.
That's right.
He is going to again try and merge the two, and I think that's his goal. Is his goal with it. How long it lasts, we'll see. It depends how much politics get in the way. But to be honest, I would have thought politics would have got in the way more than they already have so far, and he's just brought his way out of it. So fair play to him.
Yeah, I threw a couple of questions at you there, but we're back with regards to Joshua and Fury. I think the funny thing about that fight is that had it happened 5 years ago, when on paper it was supposed to, the consensus was that Fury was going to wipe the floor with AJ, but now Fury's lost, and Joshua's taken a couple of losses. It has kind of evened out a bit. So even though maybe the shine's been taken off with regards to their records, it's even more exciting now. It's probably more level on paper, but
especially if Fury loses this fight.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. Then we're more inclined to watch it, which is funny. And yeah, with regards to that latest Riyadh season card, I think the one coming up in February you just brought up, I think that's the best card I've ever seen in my life, and I watch loads of boxing. That's almost like a UFC card, and that's a point I want to come on to. With Saudi and Riyadh season potentially taking over boxing, they're throwing stupid purses out. Do you not feel that, I think, let's say Riyadh season becomes a franchise like the UFC, where they sign fighters who fight for the brand. Do you not feel that runs the risk of fighters' purses actually going down? Because to make this thing profitable, they need to invest into the brand, like Dana White did with the UFC. Fighters were getting paid, $100,000, $50,000, but all the pay-per-view and gate money was going into promotion. So that's why MMA is not as fractured as boxing, where you got different promoters, different networks, and it's just so hard to get fighters to come together and fight. Whereas if everyone is under one banner, if everyone is signed to Riyadh season, they're going to get paid less money, and all the money is just going to go into promoting Riyadh season. Do you not feel like that's a potential, I don't want to say danger, it's good for us as fans, but it's a potential danger for fighters' purses going forward?
I don't think that will happen, because you'd always need something to fill into it. So where do the fighters come from? And if it gets to that point, then it'll be weird. It'll be the race to get to sort of Riyadh season will become more than being there. So it's like, the British level fights, because the line is, it's like, the playoff final in football is seen as the most expensive game in football for what is a second tier game, essentially, because it's getting to the Premier League. So I think that it would just slightly shift, and, there'd be more money in whatever level it is that gets you into Riyadh season. There'd be more money in that, because you're never going to kill like local domestic boxing. So then the British title fights or European level fights, whatever it is that sees as the gateway to that, will just become bigger. Also, I don't think that Saudis will try and go down that route. But even if they do, I think the timing is terrible, where at the moment UFC is having not a bad time of it, but it's kind of showing that model, like with the John Jones, I don't think will ever fight Aspinall. So the whole idea of the UFC is, we own everyone, and if we tell A to fight B, they fight, and that's it. But you get stars that transcend that, like John Jones, who does whatever he wants. Conor McGregor transcended the sport. And there's a couple others. UFC isn't my main bag, to be honest. I know a little bit, but I think the timing of it is at a time where, not saying the UFC model doesn't work, because it does, and the best tend to fight the best, but it's shown you can exist outside that. And I think it would be a bad time for the Saudis to try and do that, to be honest.
Yeah, you're right to an extent. I watch UFC as well. So John Jones, Dana White came out a couple of days ago and he said that fight is 100% happening. Whether John Jones is going to get his FU money, quoting him, if he's going to get his FU money purse, whatever that is, 10 million, 50 million, that's very unlikely. But, with the UFC, if Dana says you're up next, you're going to fight, you fight. And Conor McGregor, he's fought everyone he's supposed to fight. But with regards to fight purses, the UFC are willing to take less profit or even operate a loss if it means having Conor fight, because, he is the brand. And they do make an exception for letting them have breakaway fights like a boxing match, providing they get a cut of it. So, Dana White, he has his fingers in every pie. And I just feel like, the best route forward for from a fan's perspective is to have all fighters, or at least have the best fighters under one banner, where no one can duck anyone, no networks or promoters or managers or whatnot can get in the way. I think Dana White even said he's planning on entering boxing in the next year or two. So I think there's so many exciting...
Yeah, I mean, he's been saying that for ages, but he has said it again recently, yeah.
He said it again, yeah. So there's so many exciting developments going on in that space. But I think for me personally, I don't know how you feel about this, but we're seeing a lot of, fights that should be taking place in Britain happening in what's not, considered a boxing hotbed like Saudi Arabia. What's your thoughts on that? Fans having to fly out to a desert, to a stadium with a pretty sterile sort of environment. Is it a net positive, or is it bad for boxing? We get the fights we want, we're just not getting them what we want, or is that just the British in us being fickle?
I think it's probably the British in us, to be honest, because everything's got to start somewhere. Like, the O2 wasn't seen as a boxing venue for the first however many years it was open, and is now probably, take out stadiums, is the premier boxing venue in the UK. Where did they use in London before that? Wembley Arena, holds half the amount. Yeah.
I think O2
no,
smaller.
I'm not talking about stadium, I mean the arena.
Oh, right. Sorry. Okay. Right. Got it. Yeah.
No, I'm saying before the stadium fight.
Yeah.
Like O2 was seen as the premier venue, or aside from stadium, it still is. Aside from a stadium fight, O2 is the best venue you can have a fight. But it wasn't. That wasn't seen as a fight venue. It was an exhibition centre, for God's sake. As well, so I was at the 5v5 and Bivol against the guy whose name I forgot. The 5v5 when he fought Malik.
Oh, sorry, the Libyan fellow.
Yeah. So I was there all that fight week. I had unbelievable access, to be honest. And the fights were that good that I couldn't tell you what the atmosphere was like. So you might have watched it on TV and gone, "Oh, really good fights," but the atmosphere wasn't great. I can guarantee you, there's not a single person in that room that knew or cared what the atmosphere was like, because the fights are that good. And the same, I watched Bivol Beterbiev on TV, the first one, the same as most other people. What was the atmosphere like? Who knows? Because the fight was that good.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
But I think, and again, Fury-Usyk won. I couldn't tell you what the atmosphere was like. I think atmosphere masks a bad event. So it's like, I'm taking this into a kind of tangent, but people go, "Oh, darts is boring without the crowd," but they have a crowd. So the atmosphere masks the event. So, but if a boxing event is terrible, nothing's happening, you're not engaged, and then you can hear silence from the crowd or hear someone in row 7 talking to their wife about what they're having for dinner, yeah, you notice the atmosphere. So I think we notice it more on undercard fights where people aren't as engaged. But me I don't want to say a purist, but I box myself. I'm a big boxing fan. Mm-hmm. I can enjoy a fight without atmosphere if it's a good fight. So I think it is a bit of course the atmosphere is better in the UK. Like I was at AJ against Daniel, and yeah, the atmosphere is better. But if that same action played out, like exactly what happened in the AJ Daniel fight, happened in Riyadh, happened anywhere else, no one would care. You don't care about the atmosphere because what went on in the ring. I just think atmosphere is something that, one, people use to, I don't like change, so I'm going to pick an excuse for it.
Yeah.
And two, it's just like, as I said, if there's nothing going on, then you look at the atmosphere.
Yeah, I agree. I think with regards to going a fight, anyway, I don't know if you find this, it's quite elitist anyway, because the guys who've got the best seats, are pretty wealthy, are pretty well connected. If you're sitting far back, in row Z, you can't see nothing. You're watching it on the screen anyway, so you might as well watch it on a good TV at home. But which fights have you been to? I know you've been to a couple. Which ones have you been to out in Saudi?
So out in Saudi, it was only the 5v5. So Wilder Zhang, Daniel Hergovich, Nick Ball against Raymond Hawes, Craig Richards, Willie Hutchinson, and what was the other one? There was 5. Obviously, it was a 5v5.
Hamza.
Hamza.
Yeah,
I sat next to his dad. I actually know Hamza really well. I don't know why that was the one I forgot. So yeah, Hamza.
Oh really?
Against Amo. Yeah, I was in the gym with Amo a few days before, and then I know Hamza very well. We're both massive Arsenal fans. So I only met him there, but we were speaking a lot during fight week about Arsenal and stuff. And then
he's not from North. He's from East London, isn't he?
He's from Ilford, yeah, but he's a massive Arsenal fan.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, good luck. He's fighting in February as well. I think it's his world title fight coming up.
Yeah, against Adames.
Yeah, what do you think about that fight?
Yeah, I think he wins, and I'm not going to say duck, but I think not going near Janabek was a very, very smart decision.
Smart, yeah. Yeah,
Janabek's not that long at the weight either, so I think Janabek could move up even his next fight, to be honest. So that frees it up. And to be fair, Hamza always says, like, because he's massive, he's so big. He always says he's good at the weight, and as in he makes the weight okay, which doesn't seem like it should be right, but he always says, and he says it publicly, but he also says it privately. He's like, no, I'm good. Like, I can make the weight. I ended up
the thing is with Hamza,
most of his team.
Yeah,
they were all saying, yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing with Hamza is that he hasn't filled out, like he hasn't got a lot of muscle. So when you're muscular, if you've got like a Eubank sort of build, you really got to have to dehydrate yourselves. You get muscle cramp. Whereas Hamza, there's nothing on him, so it's pretty easy for him to make weight. But yeah, he's looking really good so far at middleweight. It kind of feels like the WBC champions are kind of weak and easy pickings. I think Conor Benn is trying to get a fight with Mario Barrios, I think, for the WBC as well. So we could have a couple.
That's not a middle. So
a welterweight.
The issue. Yeah. So the issue, and I know this for a fact because his team have told me. So Hamza hasn't said this himself. Look, fighters will fight anyone, but no one, absolutely no one, wants to fight Lara, who I believe is a WBC champion. Is he WBC? He's one of them.
No, he's got the WBA, I think. Pretty sure.
I know they're all like, because there's talk about Eubank Jr. fighting him, and everyone in boxing is like absolutely swerve that fight.
Yeah, so the thing is, I'm really happy if that fight happens because I know how badly the bookies price up fights with Eubank. We've seen him as the favorite against George Groves. We saw him the favorite against, who was it? In a few fights. And just him being British and the bookies not knowing too much about Lara, I'm expecting a big price on Lara, which I plan on absolutely smashing because there is no way Eubank wins a round against him. Even though he's 40, there's no way he wins a round against him. He's just... He's so skillful and he moves so well. He made Canelo look like a B-level fighter, and I had him winning that fight as well, Lara. The way he dictates the pace and controls distance. I think he sparred with the Charlos, for 2-3 years, and he made them look amateur. So I can't wait. I hope that fight happens.
I'm in the same boat as you from a betting perspective. It was funny. I was watching an interview of Eddie Hearn the other day, and Ed was saying exactly what you said. Like Eubank doesn't win, or he doesn't make much for it. He said it doesn't make sense making that fight. and he's like, he doesn't win a round, doesn't make much money. And I'm thinking, Ed, shut up, because now the public has got some sort of insight. And I'm thinking, just shut up and don't, because I agree with you. Like, Eubank would be favourite in that fight, I think, which is ridiculous.
Don't you find it funny how much of the mug money influences, the odds on boxing so much more than any other sport? Like, you just see so many mispriced fights, and it happened with, well, obviously hindsight's 2020. I had Usyk as the favorite in the first fight, but he was such an outsider, and even after the weigh-in, Usyk's price just started drifting just because Fury looked a lot bigger than him. So it's just funny how mispriced the odds are on boxing. If I could only bet on boxing, I would do that. So, if that Lara Eubank fight happens, I've got a good feeling that Lara is going to be a massive price, and I plan on hitting that. But quickly, before we wrap up, I'm not sure who else is fighting on the undercard. I think it's Dave Allen. I think he's fighting. I don't know if that's this week or if that's some other time.
Yeah, he's fighting Johnny Fisher. Yeah.
I mean, Allen, it's hard to take him seriously. I know he retired for a while and now he's coming back. Is this just a feeder fight for Johnny Fisher to go on to bigger things? And how far do you think Johnny Fisher can go in the heavyweight division?
Again, I'll caveat this if I know Dave a little bit. Like, I wouldn't say we're mates, but, we've spoke a few times. I was actually looking at the odds of this yesterday. Johnny Fisher's 1.1. Those odds are wrong. Like, really? I'm not saying Dave will win, but Johnny Fisher should not be 1.1. And it's the biggest, if Dave gets out of the first two rounds, it's a 50-50. Maybe not a 50-50, but, Allen should be priced 4s and he's at 8s. Like, Fisher has done nothing. Like, and this is nothing against him. Lovely kid.
Yeah.
Like, really nice guy. But he's beat a Babic who's finished, like properly finished, punch resistance completely gone.
Yeah,
that's his only win. Not his best win. That's his only win. He beat Harry Armstrong, and like not struggled, but it wasn't.
I think
he didn't go and steamroll him.
Yeah, for the area title, I think, wasn't it?
Title, yeah. But how can you be like? And I know Dave Allen's made a habit of not winning, but making things difficult for people.
Yeah.
But say for example, Fraser Clark, who he doesn't punch enough, and that's true. But as he says himself, this is the first time he's ever been blessed with a 12-week camp, and he's been up with Jamie Moore in Manchester training what looks like properly, or more properly than he ever has done. But I don't understand how he can be a longer price against Johnny Fisher, whose best win is a shot to bits Babic, than he was against Olympic bronze medalist Fraser Clark. Who'd also, who'd had a couple of okay wins against some people who are on their way out as well. But, a skilled technical fighter where, okay, Fraser's punch power isn't what Johnny's is, but he's never going to get clipped by someone of Dave's level.
Yeah.
Whereas Fisher is raw enough, and as Fisher admits himself, and I know it was a long time ago and sparring doesn't dictate everything, but Fisher admits himself, he got absolutely battered by Dave Allen in sparring. And of course he's improved since then. But I think where Fisher's open enough to get cleared, look, I say in all this, I think Fisher wins, but I think the odds are so wrong.
Yeah, I've got my opinion on the odds. I think, the fact that Allen, he hasn't got his last two fights, he fought two nobodies, and they were 4-round fights, and he won them on points. Fisher's just been knocking everyone out. I don't know if he's gone the distance before, but he's been knocking the 7 bells out of everyone. Granted, Babic, like you said, his resistance is gone, and he's a fluffed up heavyweight. He fights, I think, in that bridgerweight or cruiserweight or whatever. But
he was fighting at heavy. He fought at heavy, and then he went down to Bridger to win the title, and then got knocked out in a round by someone no one's heard of, who Lawrence Okoli then knocked out in a round.
Yeah, and that's another one who to throw in the pack, actually, Okoli. I think he's gone up to heavyweight as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he beat someone the other day. I watched it.
Yeah,
someone I'd never heard of, but had an okay record.
Yeah, so things are getting interesting in that regard. But yeah, Allen, to be honest with you, it's just those two last wins, which was just. He just stink out. He just won on points, whereas Fisher's just been knocking everyone out. And as you know, with boxing, if you're knocking everyone out, you're going to be shorter in the price. But
also, if you watch them fights, and again, this comes from knowing Dave and being able to see some footage. He was on small hall shows because he didn't have a promoter, and he was carrying people to get rounds. As you said, he's had 2 fights in however many years.
Yeah.
Like, there's no... If you would have said to him, I'll give you £1 million to knock both of these guys out in a round, they would have gone in a round. Like, so, again, this is where watching things and looking at box rec are like again, it's not. I'm not saying Dave Allen's a world beater, but I wouldn't judge. Oh, it went the distance. It wasn't because he couldn't put them away, and also he's having to pay for opponents because they've not got promotions back in. So are you going to want to go in when you've spent however much and you're doing it to try and get some ring time and just icing people in 30 seconds? What's the point? You're wasting your money. You might as well not fight.
No, I agree. And Allen, he's a big boy and he can crack as well. He has got a punch. He just needs to let his hands go. And if he does chin Fisher, and he's got every chance of doing that, anything could happen. So I definitely won't be taking on Johnny Fisher at 1.1, whatever you said he was. I haven't checked. But
yeah, I checked. He was 1.1 and Dave Allen was 8. That was yesterday. I checked.
Yeah. No, that's too short. I've had my fingers burnt betting on Dave Allen before. He fought that Jamaican guy. What's his name? What was it for the Commonwealth?
Lenroy Thomas.
Yeah, Lenroy Thomas. So I backed him, and I think he went really short, after the fight. And you know how it happens with boxing where the market is still live until the judges' scorecards are read. I think he was at 1.05. And then it turns out they gave it to Lenroy Thomas. So I had my fingers burnt.
Yeah,
in that
it
fight.
was, do you know what's a funny story, just sort of unrelated to this? So I was sat front row at the 5v5 so I had seats next to the Red Corners family, whoever it was. So, I was sitting next to Hamza's dad, his fight finished, and whoever the family of next one. So Nick Ball fight against Raymond Ford, super tight. Super tight. But the judges sitting, like, my knees are touching the back of the judge's chair. And I'm sitting with all Nick Ball's friends and family. And we've seen him give the card giving it to Nick Ball. So we're obviously trying to keep it quiet, but they're still going down the road going like, Nick's won that card. But then they've gone on, whoever the MC was, I can't remember, said, oh, we've got a split decision. And then they've said the judge, the other side, has given it to Nick. So we all start celebrating knowing he's won it. And obviously it didn't come to me at the time, but I was like, because I don't know what the odds were, but if it had come to me at the time, I'd have got on Betfair so quickly.
I was going to say,
because we knew he'd won because we knew he'd got the card our side.
Yeah. I don't know if you can open Betfair in Saudi, but if you could have got on those, if you saw the cards and if you managed to get on, that'd be amazing. So the next time you're out in Saudi, if you make sure you're sitting behind the judges' scorecard, so if it ever goes the distance, you can ping me a message so I can get on it.
Yeah, as I said, it was only one of the cards, but it was just the way, because we was the last to be announced, that we knew as soon as he'd got one other, that he'd won it. And there was people, there was some, I don't know who they're from, but there was someone sitting next to the judge that when we started celebrating, they were going, shut up, because I don't think they wanted to be ruined on TV, this spectacle of all who's won it when we were all celebrating in the background. So we had some officials telling us to shut up.
Yeah. Well, next, like I said, just ping me a message. Before we wrap up quickly, tell me, how do you get these seats front row in Saudi?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just Saudi. So it's just through people I know. To be honest, one of my best contacts in boxing is someone that just followed me on Twitter for football stuff. And then we started speaking because I like boxing. I think he always says he saw me tweet something about boxing, but sort of more on a deeper level of boxing, not just, AJ Sparks, whoever. It was, more about a more niche fight or something. So he reached out to me. Obviously, he's a massive football fan and he realized I like boxing. So we started talking and then he had access to a load of people in boxing and it started from there. And then you network when you're there. So as I said, when I was in Saudi, I ended up in the gym with Nick Ball, Amo Williams, the geezer that fought Bivol, in the same hotel as Hamza. Joseph Parker was there doing punditry. I was up sitting by the pool talking to Todd Grisham and Darren Barker for hours in the same hotel as Daniel Dubois.
Wow.
So, you network from there. And then I went to Chisora Joyce. I was sitting next to Adam Morley, who is Joyce's manager's wife and child. But all of the people around there. So McGrail, who's meant to fight, is fighting on Saturday, but his fight against Dennis McCann got pulled, so he's fighting someone else. He was sitting next to me. Campbell Hatton was a few seats down. Wow. After the fight, I was in Chisora's dressing room, and Usyk walked in because obviously they're good friends.
Yeah.
So we're just chilling in the dressing room after the fight with Usyk, which was a mad experience. But yeah, it's just all from getting one lucky in, and then sort of networking beyond that.
Yeah.
At Wembley at the AJ Daniel fight, just walking down Wembley Way, saw Sam Jones started having a chat with him, just again because of people I've seen or I know now in boxing, but all coming from one guy. Dylan White's brother, who, if he's his brother or not, is a bit of a question. Dean, see him on Wembley Way, and again, just just once you're getting in somewhere, if your foot's in the door, walk through it.
Wow. So you're rubbing shoulders with everyone. Now, good luck to you. You've done really well. So, next time you can't make it to a fight, or if your mates can't turn up, to call, because I'm always hovering around somewhere around the Middle East, quite frequently throughout the year. So definitely give me a message.
To be honest, the Chisora Joyce one is a funny story. I was training myself on the Friday night, and someone at boxing said, "Oh, what are you doing this weekend?" And I was like, "Oh, I'll probably just watch Joyce Chisora." And as I said it out loud to myself, I was like, hang on, I know so many people in them camps. What do I mean, watch it on TV? So I messaged someone and said, can you sort me out tickets? And they was like, yeah, I'll get back to you. And then I didn't hear from them. So the doors opened at, say, 6, and it was like 4 o'clock on the Saturday. I hadn't heard from them. So I just messaged them saying, I assume you couldn't get it because it was too late. Because I know they would have access to tickets, but obviously it was so late that I asked. So I said, no worries, I assume you can get them. And he rang me straight away, and he said, I got them hours ago, but then something else come up. So I was meant to ring you, and then something else come up, blah, blah, blah. And I've just completely forgot. But he's like, they're at the box office, go pick them up. And he was like, but I'm not coming. But it was so late, I didn't have time to sort of invite anyone else. I just had to shoot down there. So I've got there, and they're VIP ringside passes. So as I said, I was sitting next to like loads of fighters and Joyce's manager and whatnot. So I've rang my mate who's got me a ticket and said, you've sorted me out here. Like, I can touch the ring. There's a video of me on Twitter that I was filming the decision. I was touching the ring as the decision was being announced. I was essentially in Chisora's corner for it. And, so I rang him and said, you sorted me out. And he's like, did you get rid of the other one? I was like, no. He's like, okay, I'm coming because the seats are that good. So he's rushed down there. But it was one of them at 4 o'clock. I didn't have a ticket. And by 10 o'clock or whatever time the fight finished, I'm sitting in the Chisora changing room eating Five Guys with him after he's won with Usyk sitting next to us. And it's like the way these things can happen.
How much do ringside tickets go for something like, because that's a pretty big fight, Chisora and Joyce? Do you have any idea?
I wouldn't have a clue. And I'd imagine in general, like, I think they set a price where you're not really meant to buy them. Like, I know everyone around me was comped. So like Joyce's mum was sat in front of me. So I was where I sat for the fight was, as I said, like VIP. There was 3 rows back and I was in the third of them, but within that area, there's no security. So you can just walk wherever you want. So obviously I walked around to Chisora's corner because I know a few of his team, but where I actually watched the fight, I was behind Joyce's mum next to Adam Morley, as I said, who's, I think he's manager, Joyce's manager. And then I said Campbell, Hatton, everything crowd, they would have all been comped. So whatever the price is, I just think they're a price where you're not really meant to pay that.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is what I hear. I hear, each camp gets allocated X amount of tickets where they're comped, and then outside that, they're priced so prohibitively that, it's just who's going to buy it. But, in my opinion...
Well, as I said, for that, I picked up 2 ringsides on the day, and it wasn't like through any of the teams. That it was just it was a Queensbury show. Just rang Queensbury and said, I need 2, like, best you've got. And they were available on the day.
No, good luck.
It wasn't out of the fighters' allocations. And I know, as I said earlier, I can't remember if it's on the thing. I know Daniel for the AJ fight got very few, top tier ringside seats. And obviously he was the main event. Again, it was AJ's show. Of course it is. It's AJ, but he was the main event. So imagine someone further down the card, I don't know who was on early, Kakachi against Josh Warrington. They would have got they probably wouldn't have got any ringside. They'd have got, some premium seats, but not, I very much doubt they got in a ringside.
Yeah, it was a good scrap that as well. But I think with boxing, like I said, obviously you've done well, get ringside. That's the only time it's worth it, in my opinion. If you're going for the atmosphere, fair enough. But, if you're, like all the way back, like a couple 100 feet away from the ring, it's just not worth going. You might as well watch it on TV. That's just how I feel about it anyway. A lot of people.
Yeah, I prefer smaller venues. Yeah. Like O2 for me is a better venue than like Wembley Stadium for that reason.
Yeah, Wembley Stadium is a big issue because it's so flat. If you're far out, then you're not going to see anything. Whereas somewhere like, not the Copper Box, the O2, where it's a lot steeper, you can see the action a lot better. But yeah, Wembley's just horrible, you know, if you're far out. So if you're either ringside or it's not worth it. Talking of ringside, by the way, I remember Anthony Joshua, Vladimir Klitschko. I remember fights ringside were going up for like 20K or 30K or something stupid. So yeah, they're so prohibitive. If you're not comped, then you know, God knows who's buying that. But yeah, before we wrap this up, finally, quickly, your gun to head, who you betting on for this fight this weekend?
Gun to head, Usyk.
You're working with Usyk. All right. Now, me personally, I'm leaning towards Usyk slightly. But who I think is worth betting on or where the value is probably a slightly different story. But I will be doing a write-up on that on Substack. I'll be doing that over the couple of days. So make sure you're subscribed. I'll leave the link in the description below. If you want to quickly plug your socials, I think it's just Team News and Ticks, right? On Instagram and Twitter.
Instagram is leaked lineups, but to be honest, it's not active. It was at 150 odd thousand. It's died to 120,000 because I've just not used it. So people can follow there if they feel to, but there's not really much on there. Twitter is at Team News and Ticks, but TIX.
Okay.
Which just it's funny for people listening because obviously they're betting people. It was meant as a betting thing, as a tick, as a price increment, but everyone thinks it's football tickets. Yeah, but everyone thinks it's.
No.
Yeah, but obviously because they don't know. Like, if you don't bet, you don't know what a tick is as a betting increment.
Of course, yeah. I can imagine.
So that still makes me laugh when people go, "Oh, you've got an account just to sell tickets," and I was like, in my head, I'm saying, "What are you on about?"
Oh no, I can understand. And you got pretty big following as well, so I can't imagine how many times you're inundated with those sort of messages asking for tickets. But no, you're a great account, and you got a good account, and you really know your boxing as well. I enjoyed this chat, so we should do this again. You know, we should do this for big fights up and coming. It would be interesting to hear your thoughts and pick your brains, and potentially get some inside information if you're allowed to share that. So
for Bivol Beterbiev too, I'm 99% going, and I'll have complete access. I'll be in the gyms with the fighters and whatnot. So if I do go and we want to do something that week, how much information I'll pick up that week, who knows? But I will be in the gym with them. Whoever trains. But basically, what happened at 5v5 is on the Monday and Tuesday. There was a few fighters in the gym, and I was watching them training with them essentially in the same room as them, obviously not with them. But then from the Wednesday onwards, they're tapering down. So you see them about, but where they're cutting weight and stuff, they're not the most talkative. They're just angry people apart from the heavyweight.
I can imagine. Yeah. No, definitely. Look, even inside information aside, we can still have a candid chat about the upcoming matchups. You know your stuff. I like boxing, you like boxing, so we can talk anyway. And if you do get any inside info, that'd be good to share. But I'm really looking forward to the fight, and I hope you enjoy it.
Fingers crossed. I'm sure we all will.
Yeah, definitely. I'm expecting another barnstormer. But thanks for coming on the pod, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
All right, brilliant. Guys, don't forget to like, share where you can. Leave your comment, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.